Sitting up here at work right now, and some thoughts are going through my mind. And I wanted to bring those thoughts to you all because maybe you are somebody out there who could be potentially in the same position as me. I'm thankful for my parents, but my parents, they didn't raise me. Neither did my mother or my father raise me. I was raised by my great grandparents. My folks had me at a very young age. Mom was 14, dad was about 20, 21 years old. And I know what you're thinking. Yeah, wasn't right, but what can you do? That was the result of what they did, and I came into the picture. I thank my mom for having me. I thank her for not aborting me. I thank her for fighting for me. She didn't get an opportunity to care for me because her parents took me away from her. They wanted their daughter to finish school. They wanted her to have another chance. So they took me away, sent me off to live with my great grandparents. Even at the age of 55, 56, my mom, she still wrestles with that thought of me thinking that my son hates me because I didn't raise him, or my son holds this against me because I didn't raise him. And I can't lie, when I was younger, I did hold some animosity. I did have some resentment in my heart because she did raise my other siblings, and I was the one that wasn't in the households. You know, there were visits, there were times that Christmases and weekends and stuff, but I wasn't like there like that. And honestly, I think that is a very big reason as to why me and my siblings really don't have much of a connection. Like we don't. Like we love each other, I guess you can say that. I mean, I do care about them, but we just don't have a deep connection at all. And because things turned out the way that they did, it did cause a bit of a wedge between me and my mom. And that carried on for many, many years. Many years. It took so much time to get us to where we are, and we still really aren't where we need to be. Like we're not like this. It's a work in progress, and you have to understand when you were in that position, like me and like her, like you can't just pretend like that didn't happen. You have to work through trauma. You have to work through the missing time periods and admit to one another like we really need to spend more time on getting to know each other, because you're my mom and I'm your son. But I'm thankful for her that she never just gave up, because there were time periods that I did make her feel bad. When I was younger, I did. And even in my young adult years, I did. I was like, you weren't there. My grandparents did everything for me, and you still act like you're not here. Like, my expectations exceeded what reality was, you know? And a lot of us make that mistake as far as like placing high expectations on people, not really realizing that that's not that's not realistic. Every so often, me and my mom, we will text each other. We don't talk on the phone all the time. Some people who have really, really good relationships with their parents, their mom, and they talk to them every day. They visit them every day. My mom doesn't live here. She lives somewhere. She lives in another state. So I can't see her like that. So I'm just thankful that, I got a mom. My dad, I've made a video about this. I will put a link in the description if you're interested in hearing the testimony of me meeting my father for the first time at 27 years old. But me and him have had a very, very rocky relationship, because to be absent throughout your entire childhood and to come back into the picture at nearly 30 years old is kind of hard to process. I'm already like, had 2 kids at the time he came into the picture, married. It's kind of hard to adjust. Like, here's this man, like, what can you really do for me, at this point? That was pretty much the thoughts I would battle with. You feel me? That's where I was. And granted, throughout that time period, me and him definitely have, like, we bumped some heads, because once again, my expectations of the man that he should be, or the type of father that he should be, exceeded what was reality. I tried to put the cart before the horse. I expected, like, in my mind, I felt like this man's been gone half my life. Like, you owe me. You owe me a lot, man. And I had that mentality for years. My dad never paid child support, so he got away with that. There were no visits, no birthdays, no Christmases, no nothing as a child, like no help at all. And, when I met him, I was just thinking, well, surely he's going to want to make up for everything that he missed. Surely he's going to come through in every instant. Surely he's just going to be there. Like, that's just what I was thinking. But that was not the reality. And because it wasn't the reality, I got very pissed off, very angry, and I cut him off for about 5 years. 5 to 6 years, I cut my dad off, because I felt like, I said, bro, you're wasting my time. You don't call, you don't visit. I went through a very traumatic experience about 11 years ago. He didn't help, and that was like the tip of the iceberg for me. So I'm like, screw it, I'm out. You can't be here. I don't need you. I don't want you. What can you do for me? So for 5 years, I shut him out. Put him to the side. Put him in a box. I'm like, I'm not giving you the privilege of being in my life. I'm not giving you the privilege to be in my kid's life. Forget you. There's a Bible verse. It's one of the commandments. It says, honor your mother and your father, for all of thy years shall be plenty on the earth. Now, if you follow me long enough, you should know I'm a man of God. I try my best to be, holy. I try my best to treat people with respect and love. I try my best to help who I can. I didn't want to be a hypocrite by saying I'm just going to hold a grudge against my dad. So it was like 2023. I had watched this sermon on forgiveness. And I remember watching it and then reaching out to my dad, letting him know how I felt. And he came over immediately, and we talked. We just, tears in our eyes. It was a very emotional time period. And I could tell, like, there's a lot of damage. There's a lot of holes in this relationship that needs to be patched up. There's a lot of problems here that needs to be taken care of. So doing that it made me feel very good. And it made him feel good, knowing that his son doesn't hate him and that his son does want him around in his life. My dad is not perfect. He has made some mistakes. He is at a point in his life right now where I believe he realized that, and he's trying really hard to like make amends. He's trying hard to build a legacy for his family. He's trying really hard to show his family, you know, I love you and I want to finish my life off right. And then you know what? Just not looking at him as my father at the moment, but as a man, I've got to take my hat off to somebody who wants to finish their life off like that, because at the end of the day, it's about being remembered for who you are. You know, not what you've accomplished and what you've accumulated, but how you've treated people and what you've done for people to leave a legacy, and that's what he's working towards. And that's what I hope to work towards too, to leave for my kids. I don't see my parents very often. I haven't seen my mom close to a year. I saw my dad back in December. And before that, it was about a year. So yeah, I don't see my parents often because we live in 3 different states. You know, I'm down here in Florida. He is in Alabama. She is in Virginia. So they're like, it's not like I have to see them all the time, but, you know, talking and establishing in their relationship is enough. So I'm making this video because I know there's somebody out there who has parents. Maybe y'all don't talk. Maybe you pissed off at them. Maybe they made you angry. Maybe they did something to, I don't know what they did to you. I just want you to find it in your heart to forgive them and to honor them. Some of you might disagree with me because I know there's some really bad stuff that happens. Some of you have been like abused by your parents, hurt by your parents, lied to by your parents. I get it. I'm not telling you to like hug on them. I'm not telling you to reconcile with them. I'm not telling you to be in their presence every day. I'm not saying to go get coffee and lunch. I'm just saying honor them. And the reason I say that is because they did give you life. You would not be here. You wouldn't if it wasn't for mom and dad, your mother and father. You may have your own family. You may be a mother. You may be a father. You may be a darn good mother and a darn good father. You may have a great reputation. You may have all of that. Your family might be beautiful. Your family might be amazing. But guess what? You would not have your family if it wasn't for your parents. You wouldn't have them if it wasn't for them coming together. So find it in your heart to forgive and to honor them, and then just move on with your life. Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. Unforgiveness can make you sick physically. Unforgiveness can bring just a bunch of unfortunate situations to come your way. Unforgiveness puts this wedge and bondage on your mind, and it gives birth to hatred at some point as well. Let it go. Let it go. Because there's some people in this world who don't have their parents anymore, and they live every day wishing that they had said, I'm sorry, Mom, I'm sorry, Dad. I wish I could have apologized. I wish I could have gave you a hug one more time. I wish that I could have said I love you one more time. I wish I could have just, I wish. There's a lot of wishing because they're not here anymore. I know one of my clients, her grandmother just passed away a couple of weeks ago. Her grandmother has 2 daughters. One of the daughters, well, she didn't really raise the daughters. She was more of a party girl when she was young. She died at about 97 years old. My client tried to get her daughters to talk to her on the phone because she was on her deathbed. One of the daughters, she wanted to say goodbye, say I love you one last time. The other daughter was like, nah, I'm straight. 2 days later, that daughter, she regretted it. And now there's nothing she can do about it. You don't want that on your heart. You don't want that on your conscience. You don't. I wish I could have said goodbye to my great-grandfather the proper way. I wish I could have told him I loved him. But around that time, I was about 18 years old, being a rebellious butthole. And then one night, we found him passed out in the bathroom from a brain aneurysm. I never got to talk to him in his right mind again after that. So I'm never, ever going to let that happen again. Don't let too much time pass before you decide to pick up the phone, text message or something like that. Just say, I love you. Just say, I forgive you, something. And then move on with your day. Don't worry about the response. Don't worry about what they think. Just do what you got to do for you. And that's it. You know, you get one set of parents. And no matter how old we are, some of us, we need them. Even if you feel like you don't need them, still honor them because they give you life.